here we are in the subway scene, and we are going to carry on. I've had a bit of a change of mind or a slightly new direction with this thing, and I'm now thinking that I'm going to have like a little area here where the passengers would come through and maybe have to check in or go through some kind of security system here. And so what I want to do, I think, just to start off is just going to bring in a plane and see where it ends up. And this is just going to sort of block out what I would want to do. I'm going to have something in this area here. All right, so let's get a general sense of. I have some equipment on either side, security equipment, maybe a desk with a laptop or something, and let's extend that down there. That's just to mark the general area. Control L to. I don't really need to give this any thickness. I just want to put it down here, so it may not even lay exactly on the ground. But this would be where the passengers would come through, and perhaps I'll have like I said, a desk, or maybe like an archway, sort of like, again, a mix of sci-fi and retro. I'm not even sure how I'm going to do that, and God knows how I'm going to do the texturing materials for this. But anyways, yeah, a little bit of equipment here, maybe an archway, maybe a conveyor belt where they put their luggage or something in, and maybe a retinal scanner or a palm scanner or something like that. So that's the general idea. So what I want to do in this video is I want to model a fence, so I'm going to get right to doing that for you in just a moment. Okay, and I'll build it as a prop, and just like the fan and like some of these other things, I'm not certain where it's going to go, but I think for the time being I'm just going to place it there, and hopefully things will continue to gel for this. So I'm going to set the origin of geometry on this, and I'm going to bring my 3D cursor there, and I'm going to build right there. So this thing should be, hopefully, let's see where this is. Let's just move this just to the general collection. And these things, let's see if I can just move those just to the general collection. So I got some stuff here, I got some stuff there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so for this, however, I'll just start building this thing. Okay, I'm going to lay down a plane, all right? And I'm going to do this in general orientation that I wanted. And so I'm going to look from the front, and I'm going to go Shift H to hide everything else, so just focusing on that plane. Now, there's a few different ways to make a fence. This is my favorite way right now. All right, and not too high poly. Yeah, so let's go into edit mode and rotate X90 first, and then rotate Y 45. So we get this sort of diamond thing. Okay, I'm going to press 1 to go into vertex selection, Shift D, and bring it up. And I'm going to put on snap to vertex. I'm going to pull this down and snap it to that point. A to select everything, M, merge by distance. Turn off snapping. Control R right there. That'll put a point there I'll be deleting this one. Same thing here. Now select 7 points. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those points. And delete. That will leave us with this sort of Z-like or backward Z-like thing. 2 to go into edge selection and select this edge and this edge. And press 3 to look from the side. All right, I'm going to extrude these back in the Y, E, pull it back. Now there's going to be trial and error to get this the way we want it, but I'm just going to extrude back a little ways. I'm going to deselect, and then I'm going to select this edge and this edge, this edge and this edge. Okay, so I've got those selected. X edges, And now I have this. All right, so it kind of goes back, comes out, goes back. Okay, now, number one for vertex selection. This is a sharp corner here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this to a curve in a moment. But I'm going to round this out a little bit. I'm going to separate these points. So I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to move it along this edge. I can't just use X, Y, and Z, so I'm going to press GG for edge slide. GG. Just move it a little bit. GG. Move it a little bit. This one, GG. This one, GG. And as I move my mouse, it stays on the edge because I press G and G. Okay, that's it for that. Back into object mode. So I've still got what looks like sort of sharp corners, but they're separated a bit. Now object, convert to curve, and go in, and you can see this is now a curve. Now, in order to make these areas right here a bit more rounded, you need an add-on. You go to Edit, Preferences, and search Curve Tools, and just make sure that this is checked and this is on. With that add-on enabled and those points selected, I'm going to press N, and I'm going to come over here to Edit, and I can, and this may be closed for you, under Curve Edit, there's this one here. There's a bunch of other ones you can use. Fillet Chamfer. I'm going to click that, and that will allow me to have a dialog box down here where I can adjust the radius. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this. I'm going to hold Shift, and you can see I can adjust these. I don't want them to overlap. I'm going to try to pull this so that this is a little bit more rounded. Now you can also come up to your overlays, turn off normals, and it might be easier to see. All right, so again, trial and error. Let's go back into object mode, and it's a little smoother. I'm going to press N to close that, and that's all I'm going to do there. All right, over to the curve dialog box here, and I'm going to set the resolution preview to 2, and I'll set the resolution itself to 2. Now I will be converting this curve to a mesh. That's the way I'm going to do this. So I want my resolution low so that when I convert it to a mesh, it's not too high poly. Now I'm going to start playing with this. I'm going to start with 0.03. I'm going to shade smooth. It's not super smooth or anything, but we're not going to see it up close. I want to bring back everything though, Alt H, and you'll see this is a piece of my fence here. It's quite large, so I'm going to scale this down. And I might mess with this a little bit, make it a bit thicker, scale it down. I'm going to start with that. I'm going to look from the front. I'm going to go Shift H just to focus on that. Just have a look at it. It's just a small piece there. I'm going to go Shift D, rotate Z 180. And then I'm going to pull it over so that they sort of overlap there. I'm going to look from the side. I'm going to pull it back so that they don't, you know, intersect. They just look like they're close. Right, like this. I'm going to select both of them and Control A, apply rotation. The one that I moved, I had rotated. Sometimes I look at this and I forget which ones. With them both selected, I'm going to go Control J. Okay, we're ready to build our fence now. Wrench icon, add modifier array. I'm going to put 0 for the X. I'm going to come down to the Z, and I'm going to pull to the right and move this upwards. I'm holding Shift so I can go slower. Come to about there. Click Merge. Now I can add more. I'll add a few. I'll go for 6 at first. I'm sure that's still too big, as you can see, but I'll be scaling this down. And I don't want it too high anyhow, so I'm going to probably leave it at 6. All right, so let's come back to this. Shift H, look from the front. Now the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go ahead and apply that array, But it says transform curve to mesh first. So I'm going to convert this to a mesh. Let's have a look at it. It's not too high poly. Okay. And let's have a look at the vertices down here, 1,314. If I just go Shift D and copy it, it's doubled. Okay. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to select it again. And I'm going to go Alt D and move it so it looks like it should be in the right position, roughly. And you can see that I'm still at 1,314. Let's select both of them. Alt D, not Shift D. And do it again. Select the whole thing. Alt D. So I'm building up my fence. Hopefully that's okay. Alt D. And I'm not increasing my polys. So, you know, the whole fence work will be only that. Let's have a look with everything else, and then I'll scale it. Okay, so far so good. Now, what would have been smart is if I had already put all these somewhere else. Okay, so where are my guys? They're under desk fan, I think. Okay, so I'm going to grab all these. And move them to a new collection. And I'm going to call this fence. Ah, good. I'm organized. So, okay. So I can right click, isolate that. Okay, so this is what I've got right here. My 3D cursor is still there, which is fine, because now I'm going to Shift A, mesh, cube, and I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to make some sort of wooden post. So this is a mixture of old and new stuff. I'll start bringing this up, and I'll change the size of this in a bit. I'm going to bring it above and below because I want a piece of wood on both sides, top and bottom, and both sides. Scale Shift Z. You know, something like that for now. Shift D to copy this. And I want to push it so that the fence doesn't stick through. And maybe not the best way to attach this, but it's gonna look, it should look okay. Okay. So I've got that. Shift D, rotate Y 90, and bring this piece up. Let's scale this in the X. We'll go into wireframe and we'll delete those faces. Select a piece, Control L. Let's look from the top. Let's scale this in the Y. We'll scale it in Z. Go back to solid view and have a look at how it connects. Yeah, something like that's all right. I can maybe bring those up. We'll see. Control L. Let's do the same thing at the bottom. Yeah, I like that. I'm thinking about that. And I'm also thinking I'll take these, pull them down a little bit. And I'm going to go Shift D, not Alt D, Shift, that was Shift D. And I want to make like a little stand, a little base for this. So I'm going to switch over to individual origins because I've got two of them selected. And I want to scale both of those sort of independently. So with that on, I'm going to go S, make it bigger, E to come down a little bit, and I'll come back to median point so I don't forget. With that still selected, I'm going to delete those faces, and then I'm going to Shift Alt and click those and Control L, and that'll select the whole thing. And I'm going to pull them up like that. Okay, but before I do anything, I'm going to hit H, and I'll come back under here, and I'm going to delete those faces. Alt H will bring all that stuff back, and I will have that. That's probably okay. So let's select this whole thing and add bevel level, I'll go for like, I'll start with 2. 0.03, let's say. I can always adjust more segments if I need. All right, so let's now come back to here. And let's go to visibility, isolate, bring stuff back. So like I said, it is probably too big. So I'm just going to hit S to scale it in object mode and pull it out. And I'll put it down there for the time being. Let's zoom in, make it even a little bit smaller, and then try to put it on the floor to some extent. Save. Let's go for this for the moment. All right, so, you know, it's a fence, and it was only 1,000 and some vertices, and then a little bit for this stuff. And I can, you know, duplicate this if I want, and it's not too high poly. But I think I'm just going to leave 1 there for now, and then I'm going to think about some of the other objects. I did mention that I'd be doing a horseshoe, just for symbolism. I'm just going to throw it on the wall somewhere or down on the tracks, perhaps. So we'll see. Let's just have a look with a few other materials and scenarios. I don't think shadows is going to look all that good right now. And I like to check with this one. It just gives me that sort of cartoony feel, and I sometimes can see when polys are flipped. But that's what we have so far in the scene. It wasn't much of an update, but I need to spend a bit of time thinking about what I'm going to do for I hope the last bit of modeling up here. I did have some plans for up here, but we'll see. And then that subway car. Thanks very much for watching. See you again soon.